Hello to everyone. I'm glad for those of you who are able to join me at this time. It's been quite a minute since I have done a reading for the collective. I've been taking some time out to really go within, to do some self care, and to really gain the messages that have been coming in my openness and transparency. And during this hiatus that I have taken from YouTube, I have been given a lot of spiritual uploads, as I like to call them, spiritual messages. And I've been guided to come on here at this time to do a reading that is very different from any of the other readings that I have done in the past. Most of the readings that you get on YouTube or even from my page are surrounding love, it's surrounding your mental clarity, what's happening with you on a spiritual level. I want to do a reading that is more expansive for the collective. I want to do tonight's reading is one that's going to actually help those who have not been able to see things clearly or who have yet to fully pierce through the veil of the matrix, to give you more clarity and more knowledge on what's really happening around us, surrounding the agenda. This reading tonight is surrounding the agenda of the government and the so called powers that were, I like to call them. Some might say they are the powers that be, but their empire is coming down as we speak. I want to do a reading tonight. This reading tonight is going to be surrounding their agenda, how it's affecting the collective, specifically more so catered and centered around the melinated group, black people, brown people, how it's affecting those who they consider to be the minority, which is not true. But I wanted to do one specifically catered around us because I know that the agenda from the very beginning for this governmental structure has been to bring down collectively the power, the strength, the mental wisdom, the intelligence, the financial abilities of the black race. Okay, and so I want tonight's reading is specifically catered around the U.S. agenda towards the collective of the melanated people. So, if you would like to gain some clarity in regards to that, stick around. I have some cards that I'm going to pull from several different decks, and we're going to get right on into it to see what's going on. I've already shuffled the deck. I'm just going to go ahead and pull the cards and see where the message leads tonight. And whatever comes through, I'm going to relay it to you all. If you find that this reading resonates with you, if you find that you are able to gain some clarity from watching this reading, please like, subscribe to my channel. So let's go ahead and get started. We have here ego and pride, and they lose. So as you know, we're talking about the agenda of the government against the collective, specifically the melanated people. Now, we know that the structure was built on ego and pride. It was built on an egotistical structure, people that came together with the agenda of gaining power, gaining resources, and doing it in a very violent way, in a very criminal way, in order to gain this power and this structure that we have called the U.S. government. And they did it based on their ego and based on pride. And as you know, we're in the age of Aquarius. In the age of Pisces, many things were done based on the ego, based on the carnal nature, and people were very easily manipulated. We was very easily manipulated by them to give up the power and our traditions and our belief systems in order to come and to be brought up underneath very egotistical and prideful people who used their so-called power to come against us and to put us at their footstool. So you have here, they lose. So this is showing me it's very clear that the empire that they have built is falling down. Babylon is falling. So it's already coming out. We already have gained clarity that they lose. So this is showing you why they are scrambling today. I don't generally watch the news, but if you are an empath or if you are awakened or in a higher level of consciousness at this time, then you understand that the energy surrounding us are very different. You can feel a hostility that exists within the people, a collective hostility that exists within the people around you. Maybe even when you go out into public, you can tell that things are different. I can tell things feel different. The interaction that people have with you, the way that they look at you, it feels different, especially if you are a melanated person that walks around with an energy of pride. You take pride in who you are. You carry yourself. You embody a sense of confidence in your melanated skin. And you can tell that those who are feeling the disruption of this empire coming down, they look at you. It's just a certain energy that they carry. So these spirits are being revealed. The veil is being lifted to where you can see right through a person's spirit, and it's no longer, they can no longer hide it behind fake smiles or fake hellos. Many of them don't even want to smile or say hello anymore. Okay, and I'm talking about many of the people, or the white skinned people, or the Caucasians, who have benefited largely from the egotistical criminal activities that have been done in order to keep us as a collective, the melanated people, down. So you have they lose. So many people are very upset about this. Okay. You have grief. There you go. Many people are grieving the loss of the structure, because the structure that they had in place, it carried them for many generations, and it held us back for many generations. But now the scales are beginning to be balanced. Righteous judgment is beginning to be placed over the heads of those who have used their power to keep a certain group, the melanated people, down, and to keep us in a space of submission, to keep us in a space of asleep. They wanted to keep us asleep to who we are, because we are very powerful beings. Okay, and when you activate your DNA, when you activate the melanin that exists within you, and you go into those Akashic records and you dig and you start to seek, you start to ask questions, you start to awaken from sleep, and that veil begins to be removed from your eyes. Collectively, when we begin to wake up, it's very detrimental to the so-called powers that be, because they do everything based on group consciousness. They've had an understanding of the fact that we are all energetic beings. They've had an understanding of the fact that energy has a very it's everything. Energy is everything. So if you are able to incite fear, that's been the agenda, to incite fear over the masses. And as long as you can keep, especially melanated people, if you can keep us in a space of fear, then that will keep us from our divinity. That will keep us from waking up to the true nature of our power, which is something that is superhuman. It goes beyond your own understanding, especially when we act collectively. And so this has been something that the enemy has been afraid of from the very beginning, when they first infiltrated America, and when they first begin the movement of so-called slavery. Even further beyond that, there were many things that they was doing. Every time they came in or took over a land or took over a group of people, they always had to first incite fear in order to gain their power and control, because the energy of fear is the lowest vibration. It's very low vibrational. And if you can keep people in a space collectively in a energy of fear, then you can maintain power. Okay, so they're in a space of grief. They are grieving the loss. Okay, let me see. We have here, you're protected. You are protected. And so understand that our protection comes from within, but we are protected by the Most High God, because we are chosen. We are protected by the holy angels. We are protected by all of the spirits, our ancestors of love and light. We are protected by the universe. We are protected by Mother Nature, because all of these things, we are naturally connected to these things. But because of conditioning, because of being placed asleep out of fear, and because we've been living in survival mode as a collective for so long, many of us have become disconnected from who we are. We've become disconnected from the fact that we are very powerful beings. So you have here, you're protected. We are protected. And so if that's something that you have been concerned about, because they are in a space of grief, and they are in the space of knowing that they are losing the battle has already, it was already written that they would lose the battle and that the head would become the tail. And so now they're starting to see this unfold. We are starting to see this unfold in real time now. And so in that energy of grief, you know that there's going to be a kickback. There's going to be it's like they're like children trying to fight back in order to win. Okay, because they never played fair from the very beginning. You know, they always played dirty. And so their response right now, because they're in a space of grief knowing that they have lost, is ego. It's all egotistical type of responses. And so they're doing many underhanded things to try to put us back to sleep. So you want to pay attention, but just know that you are protected. We are protected. Okay, because it was destined, it was fated for things to turn around in our favor. All right, we've taken many losses as a result of their underhanded agenda. So we have here working together. Y'all have to excuse these cards. I've had them for a minute. My children sometimes write on my cards, working together. You have here sever ties, and you also have genuine love. So I feel like with this working together and genuine love, this is us coming together collectively to express genuine love towards one another. Because I feel, you know, from the very beginning, even when Black people was placed in a position of slavery, when we was placed in a position of being the so-called underdog, mistreated, and put into captivity, placed into captivity, we've always expressed a sense of love. In spite of the efforts of the enemy to try to keep us down. And so, in this energy, now it's time for us to express that love towards one another, because we spent too much time trying to integrate. We spent too much time trying to integrate with a system that was never made for us. It was never structured for us. It was actually structured against us. It was structured for our downfall. And so now it's time for us to come together in a space of love, because love is the highest vibrational frequency. Remember, everything is energy. And so before, we was all collectively putting out an energy of fear, being in survival mode, trying to stay alive in a society that was against us and that was constantly using different tactics to try to literally kill us, which has happened to many of our brothers and sisters. And so now it's time for us to work together collectively to bring love back into our communities, starting from within. Genuine love for self. Okay, genuine love for self means learning, finding out who you are, learning your capabilities, your powers, your gifts, and strengthening those things so that you're able to teach it to your children, so that you're able to spread it throughout the community and towards those who are open, those who are awakened. Because you have to remember, there are many people, your family, past loved ones, maybe even some of your children, who prefer to stay asleep. They did not come into this lifetime to be awakened, and they have been so conditioned into believing in the system that when you come to them with what they call any consciousness or any they call it conspiracies. They'll say that you are a conspiracy theorist, or you're thinking too far outside of the box, because they want to stay in the box. The box has become very comfortable for many people, so you have to keep that in mind. The people that you're going to be working with are those who are also waking up, who are taking the road less traveled, and we are all collectively coming together. So understand that initially, coming into this space of awakening, you will likely be doing it alone, or with very little people. There's not going to be a lot of people, like you might have had a large structure, a lot of people that surrounded you. In this time of awakening, you are literally, we're separating the wheat from the tare. And so coming into this space of awakening, we understand that operating from a space of love, self-love first, self-preservation is the key, self-love first, and expressing that love out into the universe towards not just other people, but towards nature, towards the air, the water, the animals, everything that exists around us. Sending that love out into the universe is actually, we receive that back tenfold, and it's up to us as the chosen seed to do this, to express this. So we also have here sever ties. So that's showing you that you're going to be needing to sever ties with a lot of people. That, like I said, that will be people that choose to stay in the matrix, the people that do not want to awaken to the fact that this thing is over. Okay, it's already saying the first card that came out is they lose. And so anytime those who have created a structure are now losing the battle, that means that the structure that they created is also coming down along with them. And so, in knowing this, there's a lot of changes that's going to be happening. And a lot of people, like I said, who have been conditioned, who have grown, they're not even comfortable in the system, because many people are not comfortable with the way things are in America, but they become conditioned to believe that that is the norm. They can't see past the matrix. They can't see through the veil because they choose to stay asleep. Those are the people that you're going to have to start severing ties with. And if you don't do it on your own, then the Most High God is going to structure scenarios that's going to cause you to be in a position where you have no choice but to walk away. Because once you see, you can no longer unsee. And so once your eyes are open, you have to accept what you see. You know, because you can't go back to sleep. I mean, you can try to go back to sleep, but the fact of the matter is, once you see things clearly, once your spiritual eyes are open, you can't unsee. Okay, and so it's time to awaken to the fact that things are changing. We are now in a totally new age. We are in the age of Aquarius, and in the age of Aquarius, this is the time of reveal. This is the time of revelations, where things are being revealed. All of those things that was hidden and that was in the dark that we could not see before is now being brought to the light, is being brought to the forefront. Anything, even when it comes to secrets within your family, things that was hidden within you, things that you suppressed, that you decided to block out as a means of survival, staying in survival mode. You might have blocked out things that happened in your past from your childhood and ignored those things, or many of the things that you had to persevere through, because the chosen seed, we had to persevere through many things. We came into this lifetime to have to go through many life lessons. People dealt us some really bad hands coming up, mainly because it was to awaken us. It was to show us the importance of taking back our personal power and learning how to regain control of our own lives first, becoming the practitioners of our own lives first, so that we can then take that same energy and project it out into the universe to bring healing to all things that exist around us, to restore balance to humanity, to restore balance to everything that exists. So it's time to sever ties. Okay, not just severing ties with people that you know, but severing ties with the system. Okay, it's time to allow yourself to be ready to take that anchor off, to release yourself from the structure. Okay, get prepared for that, because things are shifting, things are changing. There's many people that wasn't even ready to release the public school structure. There's many people that was very upset about that. What am I going to do? How am I supposed to go to work? But they was getting up and going to a job every day that was very unfulfilling, very unhappy with the situation. But because the public school system it acted as a daycare center, I'm sorry to say, for many people, me, myself included at one point in time, many people was not ready to let go of that, to release that. But because the structure is coming down, there's going to be many things that change. And so we have to be ready to sever ties with these things emotionally first. Punishment is coming in. Okay, punishment has to come in order to regain and to restore the balance for the things that was wrongfully done against us for many years, and it has not been brought to justice. And the type of justice and the punishment that's coming in, it goes far beyond the judicial system that we see here in America. No, this is from a higher governmental standpoint. We're talking about from a spiritual realm. We're talking about the spiritual government stepping in to restore balance and to bring righteous judgment over the heads of those who have tormented and who have done criminal activity against the masses and the collective of the chosen seed. Punishment is coming in for them. So they are in a space of deep regrets. And even in that space of deep regrets, there's nothing that they can do about it, because karma has to play itself out. And so in that space of karma, they are no longer going to be successful at their attempts. That's why they're scrambling with this virus. They're using many different tactics to try to put us back to sleep. And I implore you to do your research go look into different things now, especially if you're considering getting this vaccine. Certain words that I can't really, I'm still going to express it, but you know how YouTube tends to try to censor things. But you want to be very, very careful with the things that you allow these people to do to you, especially now in the energy that is being projected, because there is an agenda, there is an attempt to try to slow down the cycle, because they know it's inevitable. The energies are shifting. All right, the planet has already shifted. We moved closer to the sun, which means more enlightenment. Things are even, the vibrational frequency is even higher. And so DNA activation is inevitable. We are waking up to who we are. We are waking up to our divinity. We are understanding that we are kings and queens and that we are royalty. We are waking up to this. And so they would like to put us back to sleep. And largely, this whole thing surrounding this virus and things like that, it is because they want to use fear tactics to make you go and voluntarily submit your DNA so that they can put things into your bloodstream to try to control you. So do your research, look into it, and listen to your intuition. If your intuition tells you that it's something that you should not do, then you need to listen to that, because understand that our when you feel something, when you feel that something is not right, that is a natural human response, okay, to keep you from self-sabotaging, to keep you from losing your life. Animals, they listen to that. When they sense something, when their senses tell them not to go into a specific direction, they don't do it in order to survive. We need to start listening to our intuition, but it got shut down. The third eye, our spiritual eyes, have been calcified. The pineal gland got calcified long time ago when we started eating certain foods, when we started listening to certain music, when we was going through many different traumas and experiences, when we started being conditioned by certain religious belief systems, and fear tactics and fluoride toothpaste. There's so many different avenues that these people have used against us and were successful for a time at keeping us asleep. But now, because the universe is working in our favor, because the energetic frequency is working for the specific purpose of waking us up. The Most High created all of these things so that at this time we would wake up from sleep. And so there's nothing that they can do about it. So they're in deep regret about that. You have angels protecting you at the bottom of the deck. So we have here your protected angels protecting you. They're all around us and they're ready. They've been going to war in the spiritual realm. And I don't know if you've been able to feel it, but the spiritual warfare has been very heavy. It's been real, but we have been set free. We have been set free from the bondage and the chains that kept us bound on a spiritual level. Okay, so let's go into a different deck to see more details about what the agenda is at this current time. What is the agenda against the collective, specifically the melinated collective, our black and brown people? Okay, we have here stand up. So it's time for us to stand up. Stand up for our own in our own power. Okay, this is not about going out and exacting revenge, because when you exact revenge physically, you actually pull back on the true karmic revenge that's coming in from a spiritual level. So if you was to, let's say for instance, let's just use for instance, somebody might have done something on a spiritual level. Somebody tried to use dark magic against you, and you decided to go and hire someone, or you decided to go and Google something in order to send something back, then you have pretty much canceled out the karmic debt that will come to them from a higher level, okay, from a higher authority, the Most High, and all of the spiritual beings that surround you that come in to exact the true revenge that would have to come on that person for what they, that would have to come over that person for the acts that they took against you. You actually block that out and you create your own revenge from a lower level of justice, okay? And so they don't receive the true righteous justice or judgment that they deserve based on the actions that they projected out there. And not only that, but you actually set yourself up to have to deal with some karmic lessons that will come to you in order to show you the importance of allowing things to play out naturally. So you don't want to, our standing up does not consist of us going out and being violent or initiating violence is what I should say, because we should always stand up for ourselves and protect ourselves in a level of defense. If someone was to come towards you and try to take your life or the life of your loved ones, you stand up and you defend yourself. But in terms of standing up, our standing up means that we stand up in our royalty. We stand up in our power and in our truth, knowing who we are today. So it's time to stand up. Let's see what else is going on. And that's the agenda of what they want to try to keep us from doing, is standing up. If they can keep you in a space of fear, yeah, behind the scenes. They're working behind the scenes, conspiring against us, trying to come up with plans, trying to come up with ways to cause destruction. This is at the bottom of the deck. Trying to come up with ways to cause destruction so that we don't collectively come to stand up. Okay, so just know that what you are doing on an individual scale, learning how to love yourself, healing from past traumas and pains, is where it starts. Like I said, it begins with you becoming your own practitioner, healing yourself so that you become that superhuman being, so that you activate your DNA, because what you project just from being alive, just from breathing and knowing your truth, knowing who you are, that energy that you send out there is very powerful against a low vibrational energy. And so they don't want us to come together and collectively awaken. Okay, so they're working behind the scenes. Look at this. This says robots. They're working behind the scenes to turn us into robots. That's what I was telling you about in terms of be careful what you allow these people to put into your body, because the agenda is to take you from your nature. It's always been to pull you as far away from your original self, as far away from your original being, your roots, your origin, in order to turn you into a robot. That's what the conditioning has been all about. Feeding you certain types of things through the media, feeding you certain types of things through medicinal ways, feeding you certain types of things through the food industry. I mean, every single thing that they have set up has been to turn you into a robot so that you will be asleep to the true reality, and so that you would stay locked into the matrix. So you also have here judgment. Okay, judgment. They know that their judgment is here. This is the second card coming out, indicating that their judgment time is here. And so they're working behind the scenes because they know that we are standing up. They know that we are collectively awakening, and they are doing things to try to cause destruction in order to put us back to sleep and to turn us into robots. Okay? But it's not going to work, because it's already written that their empire will come down. You have wealth here. So much of this has been done for wealth. Yeah, inferiority is at the bottom of the deck. And so that's, if the illusion that they have fed us is that as long as they was in the space of being wealthy, as long as they held most of the so-called wealth, because we're now finding out that wealth does not deal with their paper dollar. Okay, wealth stretches far beyond anything that they could ever create. Okay, we are the ones that place value on the paper dollar. The paper dollar doesn't place value on us, but everything that they taught us and fed us was backwards. Okay, and so they use this wealth in a way to make us feel inferior, to make us feel that we had nothing. And so they still use that tactic, okay, to make us think that if you don't have a certain amount of money, then you have no power. But the power does not exist in the dollar. The power exists in a person that interprets what wealth is. If we say that a crystal is worth if we say that a crystal is worth $1,000,000, if we place more value on a crystal than we do on a paperback dollar collectively, then guess what's going to have more value? That crystal. Because we've now decided collectively that the paper, or that the greenback dollar no longer holds any value. So wealth is what we interpret it to be. It's what we create wealth to be. If we say that wealth is peace, wealth is happiness, wealth is strength, wealth is healing, then we decide what wealth truly is. So it's important that you restructure the way that you look at wealth. Okay, that way you can come out of any lack mentality, because when you're in lack mentality, that's a very low vibrational energy. And when you are in a space of thinking that there is lack, or that there is no abundance around you, then you go into survival mode. And in survival mode, there's always fear. There's always a fear of losing. There's always a fear of not having enough. And so you end up living to survive, rather than knowing that you were placed here to thrive. You was placed here to be in a space of power. You was placed here in a space of royalty. Your inheritance is understanding that there is no lack, that there is abundance all around you. And that's why it's so important to get grounded and to get back connected with Mother Earth, and to understand when you get outside and you breathe in that air, you understand that air is infinite. You understand that wealth is infinite. You understand that food is infinite. You understand that everything that surrounds you is infinite. Knowledge, wisdom, understanding is infinite, okay? And so they have used that as an illusion against us to tell us that we are inferior to them because they hold what they might call wealth, okay? We have here, look at this, intimidation, okay? So they have used intimidation tactics. One of the intimidation tactics that they use is by using the so-called police system against us, against our people, against our black men specifically, to try and cause deaths and to place them on television where it's televised, where people can see these things happening. They try to use that as a method of intimidation against us to make us think that we have no power. But the power lies in the mind. The power lies in the soul. The power lies in those that are chosen. You must understand that there's no need for us to be intimidated by someone who had to use use these type of tactics in order to get to the top. Anytime you have to use criminal activity or use weapons or use different things subliminally against people's mental in order to gain a sense of power, it's because you yourself know that you really hold no power. And so you have to do all of this brainwashing, all of this conditioning, all of this whitewashing in order to make people believe that they hold no power, because you know that if they knew the truth about who they were, that you, even in spite of your efforts, it would flatline. None of it would exist today if we still understood the power that we possess from the very beginning. But many of us, we allowed them to come in, we allowed them to infiltrate our space, and we begin to believe, like, say, for instance, like the Native American. Many of them were actually black-skinned people, okay? People that look just like you and me, all right? So many of them were actually black people. They place a certain image out there in terms of what the Native American looked like, and they whitewashed him just like they did with many of the other cultures. The original Asian man is actually black, okay? But they call them they place them in the back burner, and they put the ones that are lighter skinned at the forefront to make you believe that that's what the original Asian man looks like. But many people were originally melinated people. So going back to the Native Americans, many of them were black skinned people that looked just like you and I. And so they came in, and many of them called them devils. The Native Indians called them devils when they first met them. But because they were so good at the gift of gab and at the and taking the women and manipulating them. That's why if you watch the movie Pocahontas, they use certain tactics to make them to manipulate the minds of the women. They started with the women first, and once the women actually softened their hearts to these people, they was able to actually convince the men, oh, well, they're good people and they're coming in to bring peace, and they just want us to teach them this. And we started teaching them. I say we because many of those Native Indians are us. Okay, some people might say that they come from Africa. You may have African descent. We may, I do look kind of African to a lot of people. But like I said, many of us was started, but this is the tradition. We started giving them or feeding them, teaching them our wisdom, and then they turned around and used it against us. We taught them our superhuman capabilities to heal with natural remedies that was given to us from the Most High God, and they used it against us. We taught them our connection to nature, our ability to read the stars, our ability to do many things. Okay, we've always had what they would call superhuman strengths, and this is why they came in and had to, gradually decondition us from our nature, okay, and condition us to become something that we were not in order to overcome us. Because again, had we continued to know who we were, they never would have been able to come into a space of power. So now, because we are in the age of awakening, in the age of Aquarius, we are waking up to who we are. And so now they're scrambling to try to figure out ways to put us back to sleep. It's not going to work, But I just want to encourage you through this reading and just seeing the agenda to understand that it's so important to continue to heal, continue to rise up, continue to become more powerful, because the energy that you are projecting just from those acts alone is being projected out into the universe. And collectively, as we all begin to awaken and this DNA activation begins to happen, we begin to establish righteous judgment and to redeem ourselves and to bring balance back into humanity. Okay? So let's see what else is coming out. We have here reparations. That's our inheritance. Okay? Reparations. Now, will it come in the form of them, giving back what they took? I don't know that they would ever be able to do that based on whatever materials that they could try to, pull together to try to give us back what they took from us today and yesterday and from our ancestors from hundreds of years ago. Do they even have enough resources? I don't know that they do. But this could also be an intimidation when it comes to reparations, keeping us stuck in a place of waiting for them to give us something. No, what we have, our inheritance, is taking back our power, understanding our strength, activating our DNA, understanding that we are children of the Most High God, and that we have, that we was given this world, that this world was given to us. It was taken away from us under the hands of the enemy, who came in with a specific agenda to put us to sleep in order to gain this power that he has been able to establish. But it has always been, our inheritance has always been right here. We just was too blinded to realize that what we have, there is no separation. We are not separated from the universe. We are directly aligned with the universe. Our melanin, our DNA, it goes all the way back, for many lifetimes. Okay, we've always been connected. And once we wake up into our divinity, once we wake up and actually come into that space of courage to call out into the universe and to speak out those things and to reestablish ourselves, we receive our inheritance without them even lifting a finger to sign a check over to us. Because our inheritance comes in the form of our power and in our strength and in our knowing, not believing, but knowing. That is our inheritance. And then once we establish that on a spiritual level, then it begins to manifest in the physical form. And whatever that looks like, it's going to look like their empire coming down and us coming together to collectively rebuild and reestablish what is truly a justified structure. One that's acted upon, that's built on love, that's built on truth, that's built on justice, that's built on true justice. Okay, and so reparations is something that they try to discuss. They'll try to throw it out there here and there just to make you think, or just to make you continue to support the governmental system. Oh, well, this president, he just had a discussion about it, so maybe we should vote for him. But that's all an illusion. It's all just to keep you asleep and to keep you a part of the system. You have here social media, okay? And so they're definitely using social media. This card wasn't supposed to be in here, but it's talking about circulation, the root chakra. But the root chakra, we've already been talking about the root chakra. I'll get back to that. But this says social media. They're using social media as a way of intimidating us, as a way of tricking the masses into believing one thing versus the reality of things. And that's why it's so important, if you're going to feed yourself with knowledge, or if you're going to use social media, you want to make sure that you are feeding yourself with things that are empowering you and that are actually awakening and bringing you back into a space of remembrance of who you are, because that's usually what things are. They're triggers in order to bring you back into remembrance, so that it's like, okay, well, you happen to watch a video and then suddenly it's like everything just makes sense. But that's because it was already in your Akashic records. It was already stored away, but because you had these DNA activations were dormant for so long, because you was asleep and very much so functioning in the matrix, in survival mode, you was not able to see things clearly. And so be careful of what you expose yourself to through social media. Turn off Love and Hip Hop, turn off Jerry Springer, turn off Maury. None of those things are feeding you and activating you and strengthening you and empowering you. In fact, they're doing the exact opposite. They're putting you into a space of, anger, self-loathing, guilt, shame. They're keeping you in that low vibrational energy. So it's very important to censor what you allow to go into your mind, because the mind is a very powerful tool, and you want to nurture it with things that are actually growing you and strengthening you. Okay. You have here, oh, I was going to talk about the root chakra. So we was talking about the root chakra. The root chakra deals with foundations, and it deals with structure. And so if you are, like I said, if you're operating from a space of survival mode, or in a space of fear, then you're not able to build. You're not able to create a solid foundation for yourself, and you will also remain in a space of lack mentality. Lack mentality is directly associated with a blocked root chakra. So work on your root chakra right now. I feel like the collective needs to work on their root chakra. We have black children coming out, and so our children are being directly affected, especially by social media. They're using many different tactics in order to feminize the men. They're using many different tactics in order to masculate the women, to make the women try to be in a superior position from our men, even though we are equals. They're using social media as a way of conditioning us to believe that we are inferior. And they are using also intimidation tactics through social media, fear tactics, to try to keep us in a space of being asleep or not being able to see the true agenda behind the scenes. Because like I said, there's conspiracy that is happening behind the scenes that we cannot see. So be very careful. And this is also a lesson for me as well, what you allow your children to watch, because our children are the structure for the future. They're going to be the ones that help to build the structure in the future generations to come. And so we want to make sure that we are feeding them. The first 7 years of your life are very important when it comes to what's being fed to children through their mental space. And so we want to be careful about what we allow our children to be exposed to, because they're very targeted. The black children have been targeted for quite some time now, especially those of us who they knew would be coming into a space of awakening. Because if you look at various generations, like from my generation in comparison to maybe the baby boomer generation, or those who would be our grandparents, because I'm 36. So those people who would be like 65 and up, you can see that there's a stark difference in terms of the rebellion, or those of us who are ready to step away from the construct and see things from a higher level of consciousness. I'm not saying that all people that are in that age bracket are asleep, but many of them are willingly asleep. They are so accustomed to the structure that if you try to tell them that, if you tell them that the sky is blue, they'll tell you that it's purple. If the news tells you that it's purple, or if the president tells you that it's purple, because they are so conditioned to believe what they are told. Okay, and so we, as the new generation and the generations that are coming from us, we come in with a different sense of understanding. We come in with DNA that's already being activated because of the energetic frequencies and the vibrational frequencies that's around us. We come in from a state of rebellion and already awakening. Not all of us. There are many of those who are in my age group that are still very much so asleep, but there are also many of us who are starting to awaken. And if you want to take it from a biblical aspect, it only takes a small group of people in order to shift the energetic frequency of the entire planet. That's why the Bible tends to speak on 144,000. Now, is that the exact number? According to biblical texts, that will be the exact number. So if it literally only took 144,000 of us to awaken to our divinity and to the fact that we are chosen seeds of the Most High God, then that means that they in trouble. If it only takes 144,000, but also understand that narrow is the way. Narrow is the way to come into the space of understanding and rising into this level of consciousness, because there's a lot of losses that you have to take. It's a cross that you have to bear. Okay, so it's a lot of sacrifices that you have to make in order to come into a space of awakening. Me, myself, I've worked as a registered nurse for 5 years. Prior to that, I was a CNA for 12 years. But in between that time, I strongly leaned on that career path, thinking that, okay, well, if I don't do this, then I guess I can go do some hair or something like that. But it was not placing me in a position of awakening to who I truly was. And so once life, obviously I was chosen from the very beginning, because life propelled me out of that situation, out of that career path, and it took me straight into my spiritual path as a spiritual counselor, as a healer, as a teacher. And I had to first become the practitioner to myself. I had to start doing some healing work and some shadow work on myself, recognizing that I was asleep. And within the past 3 years, that's when my awakening began. Okay, and so life catapulted me out of that old way of thinking, out of that old way of being in survival mode or thinking that I had to have a specific title. I'm grateful that I never wore my nursing license as my crown. I never felt like I never used it as a space, as a way of inflating my ego to a degree where it's like, well, I'm a registered nurse. And so this is who I am. And without the title, I'm nothing. There are many people that function in that way. You take away a title, if you take away something like that, they feel like they have lost everything and that there's nothing to live for, because they put so much emphasis and they place so much value on the titles that man gives them versus the title that the Most High gave them. And so now it's like, I'm not going to look back for what? Look back for what? Because for me to go back into that career field, because I'm not against anybody that continues to work in a nursing career, but I see things from a higher perspective. I understand the agenda of even the medical profession. And had I been in that position of continuing as a nurse right now, I would be the one standing there with the needle ready to inject hundreds of people with something that I myself would never take. You see what I'm saying? And so that will go directly against my own spirit. And what would happen? I would end up lowering my vibrations because I would be in a space of guilt, shame, okay? And those energies are very low vibrational. And so no, I would never place myself back into a position of having to go against my own spiritual belief system, especially now that my eyes are open to the matrix. I cannot unsee. And so this is why some people would say that I took a loss, because I could be out there making tons of, what they would call wealth right now. But I now have redefined what wealth is for me. For me, wealth is the abundance of peace, the abundance of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, me standing in my power, me standing in my truth, me continuing to grow, me being in a space of love and loving what I do. This is wealth for me. And when you establish that in the spiritual realm, it's very powerful, because what happens is you attract to you abundance. And so the abundance, I know that the harvest that I'm reaping, because I've been planting some real good seeds, the harvest that I'm going to reap is far beyond anything that a nursing career could bring me. Okay, because the only thing that could bring me was some paper money, and that paper money would have been very small in comparison to the amount of wealth that I am receiving now, internally and externally. And so please keep in mind what you feed your children, not food too, but keep in mind what you feed your children in terms of social media, and also what they see you do. Because when you step into your path, when you step into your truth, you are empowering them and you are showing them they do not have to lean on the system. They do not have to lean on a title. They lean in on their truth. They lean in on the Most High God, knowing that He placed us here to have abundance, to have our stability. These things are our birthright. It's our birthright to be in a space of wealth. It's our birthright to have peace, to have happiness, to have love, joy, laughter. It's our birthright. Freedom. That's our birthright. But when you come in, if they watch you go and do a job that you hate every single day, because a part of you knows that you have a stronger and a higher purpose, but you won't take that leap of faith out of fear because you're in survival mode, thinking if I walk away from this job, then what am I going to do? You have to step out on faith, knowing that you are chosen and knowing that it is your birthright to have all of these things that you struggle to get on a daily basis. Take the leap of faith. That's a message for some of you who have yet to do it. But let me see what else is coming out. And I'm going to close out, y'all, because I'm almost at an hour with this reading, but there's so much that I want to say, so I know I'm going to have to do another one of these messages. You have steal. So yeah, they're out to steal, kill, and destroy. Taking from us. No integrity. That's at the bottom of the deck. They have no integrity. They lack integrity. And that's what they've been doing. They've been stealing for a long time. But even more so than the material resources that they have stolen our knowledge of self. And they have taken it and they have used it to their advantage. Many of the things that we should have been using, like, using Mother Earth, the crystals, using the elements, earth, wind, water, fire, creating our altars, going out into nature, sun gazing, all of these things, they used it to their advantage, okay? And they gave us religion, okay? They gave us tradition. They gave us a white Jesus, okay? They gave us many things that really it was not serving us. It was actually placing us at a lower vibrational energy and putting us more into this energy of fear, walking around fearful. If I go and seek, if I go and try to get answers, then that is a direct sin, okay? When in fact, we are here to gain knowledge because wisdom is infinite. Okay, wisdom is infinite. We're here to evolve. We're here to grow. We're here to expand. And so I don't have anything against those who practice the Christian belief system, but understand that things are stepping stools in order to get into another level of understanding. This is all about evolving closer to the Most High God, not evolving away from Him and being in the space of, just being afraid and timid to gain answers and to gain knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. If you can't ask questions, then you're being placed in a box. And when you're placed in a box, you become fearful. You stay in this space of, being afraid of stepping outside of the line, stepping outside of the boundaries. That's why many of the chosen seeds are rebels. We go against those things that have been taught to us, passed down from one generation to the next, because we understand the only way to break free of the chains that have kept us bound as a collective is for those of us who are coming into this space of awakening to break free and to break away from it and to take the road less traveled. That's why even if you read the Bible, it says narrow is the way. So if narrow is the way and most people that you know is going to church, then that lets you know that church is not the narrow way. That's actually very wide and open, because on every other block there's a church, okay? With a beauty supply store and a currency exchange. So you want to keep in mind that narrow is the way to truth. And so that means that you have to take the road less traveled, and you have to do something that other people that have never done. And this is why you will find yourself walking away from those who have been around you. You have here no growth. No growth. That's what I was just talking about. Staying in a space of confinement or being in this space of I can't even think of the word right now, y'all. But conditioning, being in a space of conditioning and allowing people to tell you, no, this is tradition. This is what we've always done. We've always gone to church. We've always just paid our tithes, and, we don't ask questions. No, we go and we clap and we pray, and, there's no growth there. There has not been any growth there. Look at history. Look at your family structure, okay? You have to pay attention to these things. I'm not saying that you lose your connection to the Most High, because if you lose your connection to the Most High, then you have lost your connection to self. But what I'm saying is step outside of the boundaries when it comes to the tradition, because you have to understand where it began. What is the root of this? Where did this come from? Where did this understanding of this white man being Jesus come from? Who gave me this? Who told me this? Who told me don't ask questions and don't expand and don't evolve? Who told me that crystals was wicked? And this is the thing, the Bible speaks in similitudes, but when you even if you look into biblical text, because I still like to reference biblical text because it's still very much so valid, but the way that it was taught to us is what you have to question. The way that we have been taught to interpret it is what you have to question. You look into the book of Revelations, it talks about the heavens being paved, the streets being paved with crystals, amethyst, jasper, many different types of crystals are on a list in the book of Revelations in terms of what the new kingdom would look like. But then you'll go to someone in a church and they'll tell you, oh, well, that's wickedness. You have crystals, that's wicked. They're lying to you. And it's only because if you are conditioned, you will believe that and you won't seek any further. Because you'll say, well, Sister Pumpkin told me this, and she's been the head of the church for 100 years. And then Grandma, she concurred. And so now I'm not going to go any further. You end up losing the value of seeking, okay? And so there was no growth that happened for us. And it worked. The agenda worked. It worked for a long time, but it can't work anymore, okay? Fear. It kept you in a space of fear. Fear of knowledge, fear of wisdom, fear of seeking, okay? But even seek ye first. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. So in order to be a seeker, you have to step outside of the confinements of the little fence that you was placed behind. How you going to seek in a familiar environment? there's nothing to seek because it's all familiar. You already know these things that's surrounding you because you've always been in the confinement of this box. When you become a seeker, you step outside of the box in order to gain your wisdom. And that's when you expand. That's when knowledge begins to expand. And that's when you begin to grow in ways that you wouldn't even imagine. And so let me see, I'm going to pull one more. Causes illness. There was also an agenda to cause illness because in a space of fear, whenever you're operating from a space of fear, you're in survival mode. And being in survival mode, it actually causes certain adrenal glands and things to constantly be overactive, okay? Overactive, and it's going to actually cause more inflammation to happen in your system. And so you have to understand everything, it starts from a spiritual level, then mental, then physical. It trickles down, it's levels to this. And so the collective was operating from a space of fear for too long. And this is why it was, it actually began to distort our DNA to where we will be giving birth to children that came out ill and that came out with certain deficits and things like that because we was operating from a space of fear for so long, in survival mode for so long, that it was beginning to reshape. It's just like evolution. If you do something to a certain species for a certain amount of time, it becomes conditioned to that. And we was becoming conditioned to being in a space of fear and inferiority and being in survival mode. And it was affecting us on a spiritual level, mental level, and it trickled down into a physical level. And so it was causing illness on us. And so these people, the so-called powers that were, they understood what these things was doing to us as a collective. And so now it's time for us to take our power back. And so I want to encourage you. I still had more cards that I could have pulled, but this reading is already going into an hour. I'm going to come back and do this again in the future when I feel called to do this. But I hope that I was able to reach you all and really give you some clarity to help you to pierce through the matrix, to see through the veil, and to see this thing from a much higher perspective. I love y'all. I hope that you like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll be happy to see you again soon.